saying, "Mummy, what has that strange man got on his hand?" But the older generation, those of you with more years than you care to remind us of, will certainly know that this is a bubble float. Now, this is a traditional float which is filled with water, and it's used for presenting surface baits. What we've basically got here is a clear outer chamber which is filled with water, and the amount of water that you put into the bubble float dictates how heavy it is. So if you want to cast a long way, you fill it with water. If you want to fish shorter, then you don't need to put so much in. So it's a very, very versatile float. It's virtually invisible, and it's also got a lot of weight, which means that when a fish takes a bait suspended behind a bubble float, the chances are it'll virtually hook itself. And the good news is, as if you hadn't already guessed it, that the bubble float is making a big comeback. Now take a look at this. Fantastic weather. Here we are on a day ticket water, which is Hardwick Fishery on the Linear Fisheries Complex in Oxford. We've got a bit of a busy road behind us making a right old din, but this is a wonderful day. We're trapped here in our own little heaven. The sun's shining, the birds are singing in the trees when we can hear them through the rumbling lorries they are anyway, and one or two carp are starting to appear on the surface. Now to me, that spells out an opportunity to try and catch one right off the top. So how are we going to do it? Well, you've probably already guessed that we're going to use our bubble float as a controller, and for bait, we're going to use these. Now these are floating trout pellets, and when you take a look at them, you'll see that they're just the same in every way as ordinary trout pellets, with one key difference. Yes, they float, and they're very effective for catching carp. Now the way I'm going to attach one of these trout pellets is really cunning. So cunning you could pin a tail on it and call it a fox. Just look at this. Because instead of putting the hook through the bait, I'm going to use this bait band here to secure the trout pellet to the back of the hook, which means that the hook is completely proud of the bait, and when the fish takes the bait, the hook has got nothing to stop it digging into the fish's mouth. So in fact what we've got here is a combination of the old and the new. We've got one or two carp rising out here, not loads I've got to tell you, but this is a day ticket water, so on a day ticket water sometimes you've got to take advantage of any little windows of opportunity. There's plenty of people fishing today, but I've found this quiet little corner, there's one or two carp rising, and I've just got a sneaking feeling in my bones I might be able to get one off the top. Let's give it a go. Got it, and we're in. Lovely take there. Super job. Look at that fish go. Now this is the way to catch them, I'll tell you. As we've said it 1,000 times before on this programme, now that is total fishing. The moment when a carp comes up and takes your floater. Fantastic. This one's motoring right out across the swim. Really on a mission. He's going out towards that point over there where someone else has got some line, so I've got to be a bit careful here. Don't particularly want to lose him in there. Come on. Just turned. Now you're not having any more line, my son. See that? Healthy bend in the rod. Bright blue skies. Lovely late spring day. I love it. And I've got a carp on the other end. And you know what they say? My old mate Chris Ball, the only thing older than him is some of his antique tackle, but he always says one off the top is worth 10 on the buzzers, and he's absolutely spot on. Here we go, the fish is ploughing around in front of us now in this shallow water. Nice healthy bend on the rod. I haven't actually seen it yet. And it's interesting that it took that bait without any fear whatsoever in this shallow water. It's only about 3 feet deep here, but I figured that using that bubble float in this shallow water was a good call, because it certainly spooks the fish less than a standard controller. There's the bubble float, look. Now we're on a day ticket water here. We've got a lot of people fishing around us, They're all fishing on the bottom, catching absolutely nothing. And let's see what effect this fish has, because it just goes to show in the heat of the day, when there's nothing happening on the standard baits, that if you try a bit of stalking, feeding the fish on floaters, you can quite often pull a fish up out of the blue. And this is a real bonus. I've actually seen this carp and it looks like a decent fish. Come on, baby. What a scrapper. Superb fight. Oh, the line's just caught round one of the fish's fins now. I know it's not foul hook because I could see the bait in its mouth earlier on. It's just wrapped round its body, look. Come on, be a kind fish. Go into my net. Yes, that'll do. Well, there you go. A double on the bubble. So I guess we'll call this one double bubble. Now then, just in case you thought I was cheating, there's the hook. There's the bait band, look, that held the bait on. I've got a nice hook hold in the corner of the mouth. Now, one of the things with these bubble floats is that because of the amount of resistance imparted to the fish when it takes the bait, they're virtually self-hooking. So it makes a lot of sense to use one. Let's just pop that hook out and have a look at this glorious creature. That's a beauty, look at that. Just see if we can get her to get her fin to stand up. Now, in fact, this is a common carp, which is a little bit misleading because common carp aren't that common at all. Back in the olden days, monks used to breed carp for food. That's why you find them in a lot of old monastery ponds and moats. But over the years, people on the continent found that selective breeding of carp with fewer scales for the table produced different variations that were easier to clean for cooking. And these are known as mirror carp. So the good old common carp, which is carp as they should be really, is no longer quite as common as it used to be. In fact, in this country, the majority of the fish are mirrors. But we still call these fish commons, even though they're far from common. They're absolutely spanking. That is a beauty. And you know what I said about the reaction of the other anglers? Well, Rob in the next swim, he's a fair angler, saw what I was doing, fired out some floating bait, and he's got one on as well. Now that's what I call a thinking fisherman. Well done, son. Well, there you go. This one's a bit bigger than Rob's, I think, but he did his in real style. He got a mirror on the fly rod, and I got this lovely common, which is a fish pretty close to 20 pounds, right off the top.
You know, most times when I'm dead baiting